So, good evening, everyone. I think in the last class, is there any doubt, or I can proceed to the new topics like object-oriented concept? Hello, can I proceed? So, fine. We can proceed to the next part. Now, next part is word. I remember when that is you are facing any questions from the object-oriented part. At that time, you are facing one question: what is the object? Object is what? That is the basic questions we always face. What is the object? Object is what? So anyway, most of the time we tell that object is the instance of the class. Now it is a question we always face in the interview. Most of the time we tell that object is the instance of the class, but that is partially true. It is the instance of the class. But you tell that object having three attributes. What are the attributes are there? One is there is state. State means data. Another one is behavior. Behavior means the method, non-static method. And another one is identity. You know that every object must have some unique address. That is the identity. Now, object is recognized by, that is what, the address. Are you getting my words? So you just have to remember one thing. If anybody asks you, that is what is the object in Java, don't tell that object is the instance of the class. You tell object is the instance of the class. But after that, you tell that object having three attributes that make it more powerful. One is first attribute is word. The first attribute is state. State means data. You see, you just tell like this. See, if it has a class A is a class. Now I just write here int x. This is what I can store the data in x. X is an object variable. Object variable. So I can store the data in x because x is the instance. This is called a state. Data must be stored in where? Instance variable. Second one is behavior. Take an example. Behavior means what? It has a non-static method that is used to change the behavior of the object. Another one is the identity. You know that when I construct an object in Java, you remember, in case of Java, you can create the object by calling the constructor through which keyword? New. When the object is constructed, that is the way I can create the object. When I create the object, at that time, the object must occupy a unique address. That address is called as identity. So, fine, I covered what actually object is. So, object-oriented concept hold some fundamental concept or having some attributes or characteristics. One is object must be inherited. It supports the polymorphic behavior and the data of the object must be encapsulated and abstraction is there. One by one, every concept I elaborate. But all these four characteristics of the object belongs to object, not to class. That is, remember, when I construct the object, this object must be the child class of a class. Second, this object must be inherited. That is called as the inheritance. Second one is it must support the polymorphic behavior. It is the data of the object must be encapsulated and it supports the abstraction feature. So anyway, one by one I must cover, but until the time I just elaborate the first and the fundamental question, what actually object is. So I think everyone grab the concept, what is the object? Over. Next, they ask you the question, what is the assessor method in Java? Remember, these are very fundamental questions you face in the interview. What is the assessor methods in Java? You tell that. Assessor methods are the pair of non-static method. Remember, method is of two types. In Java, popularly we are using two types of method. One is a non-static, another one is static. Static method means class method, non-static method means object method. So, assessor methods are pair of non-static methods. They are must be public, and one method is used to set the object property, another method is used to get the object property. Take an example, I just write class X, so X is a class. Now, what I can do here, that is a string name. Now I pass that is int row. These two are word. These two are instance variable or object variable that is used to hold the object data. Fine. But what actually happens here, I show you. What is assessor method? I elaborate. Yeah, you see, when I write here public void set name, yeah, I pass string s. Now this is the setter method. Here I write name is equal to s. Similar way, I just write the public string that is get name. What the job is? It is used to extract the. Now it is used to extract the object data. It is used to set the object data. It is also popularly known as setter and getter method. Whatever happened in case of set name, same way, sorry, name, you also use the public eject, that is public void set role. Here I pass, that is in R. Now you just write here role is equal to R. This is the setter method. Another one is public int, that is get role. See. Now what it does here, return, that is role. So what actually happens here, this is called as also called as setter and getter method. They also ask you the question, what is the assessor method or what is setter and getter method? You tell that setter and getter method are the pair of method. One method is used to set the object data, another method is used to get the object data. Because these are non-static method and must be declared by which are specified? Public assessor specified they used. So fine, I just give you some ideas about assessor method. Now next one is what is this keyword? These are the important questions I just elaborate. That is why these keywords are used in Java and what is the advantage of using this keyword. Now the question is, what is this keyword? Forget about that is word. In interview, they never ask you that is questions related to your exam. They ask you some fundamental questions. So if anybody asks you what is this keyword, what do you tell? In Java, this is a keyword or it is a non-static reference. Remember, it is a non-static reference. In Java, reference never hold the data, it holds the address. So you tell that when this is a non-static reference, it must hold the base address of the current object. Listen, as it is a reference, it never hold the data, it holds the object. This is a non-static reference or it is an instance variable that hold the base address of the current object. Now, second question they will ask you, where we use this keyword in Java? You tell that as per the questions you just answer, you tell that the past use of this keyword. When my instance variable name and parameter name is same, at that time, I am using this keyword to differentiate the instance variable and the parameter. Listen my words. So if I write here string name, take an example. Here is the problem. My instance variable name is name, my parameter name is name. So it is a big problem for the compiler. If I write here that is name is equal to name, you know that parameters are local. So priority is always given to what? Local members. My instance variable is not initialized. This variable is not initialized. Java tell. To differentiate between the instance variable and parameter, we use which keyword? This keyword. So that is the first use. Second one is, you see, if I write here, that is a role. The same thing, if I write a role is equal to role, priority given to parameter because parameters are local. Java tell. To differentiate between instance variable and parameter, in front of compiler, we have to use which keyword? This. But you know that this always points toward a current object. It points to current object through which I call the method. Listen, second thing, they ask you the question. Here, what is the constraint of using this keyword? You tell that the biggest constraint of using this keyword is that it never be implemented in a static method. If I did that, it directly generates word. It must generate error. Because remember, the fundamental concept is it never be implemented within which method? Static. Because it is an instance variable or it is a non-static reference. Non-static reference never be implemented within the static method. That is the first problem, and it is a restriction in case of word Java. See, I covered what is the first use of this keyword. This is the first use of this keyword I covered. Now, what is the second use of this keyword and what is the restriction for that? Now, second use of this keyword is word I just elaborated. When I'm working in a class, in a single class, and that class having multiple number of constructors. Take an example. I have a non-parameterized constructor. Here you see. This is a non-parameterized constructor is available. Now, second constructor is parameterized constructor of what type? String type. Now, you see. In this case, the parameterized constructor of string type wants to call the non-parameterized constructor. How it called? By using which keyword? This. Now, what it means? What is the restriction? At the time of calling a constructor, this must be the first statement. Remember, it is a constant. So, when I write this having no parameter, that means it call the non-parameterized constructor. Are you clear? So, a restriction है Java में. The biggest restriction of Java is word. When I call one constructor into another constructor within the same class, by this keyword, this must be the first statement. Second, my instance variable name and parameter name is same. Shortly I covered. You can differentiate it by which keyword. This dot name is equal to, I just use it. So Java tell that when as a programmer, I want to call one constructor into another constructor and pointing to the same object. Different new means word, another object is created. But one constructor call another constructor without using new keyword, and it is point to the same object, then this keyword is used. So fine, I just elaborate what is this keyword and what is the uses of this keyword I call. Any doubts, please share it. Whatever the doubt is, because these are the genuine questions you face in the interview. So I'm just explaining the fundamental concept of Java. So whatever your doubt is, please ask me, because this is very important question. That is whoever the technical person, that's not a matter. Technical person always asks the fundamental question. Now, from this keyword, these are the questions you face. Remember, this keyword never be implemented within the main method, because main is what type of method? Static method. They ask you the question, can this keyword is implemented within the main method? You tell no. This keyword never be implemented within the main method because this is a non-static reference and never be implemented within the static method. Now, I move to the next question. Very important question for this keyword. They ask you the question, if I write a system data out.println, I print the value of this, what it print. It is not available in your book. I'm just specifying that. ये जो चीज मैं बता रहा हूं ना, ये सब चीज आपका किताब में नहीं है, बट इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आप लोग थोड़ा सा चेक कर लेना, बिकॉज इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट इन केस ऑफ जॉब. Simple. This is a non-static reference. When I print the value of a reference, it must implicitly call. Implicitly means what? Automatically call. One method of object class. Yeah, you see what the method is. That is to string. This method of object class is called. Now the question is, I print the value of this. Why it called to string method of object class? You tell that. In case of Java, it is a rule that every class implicitly inherited from object class. In Java, all the classes automatically inherit. It may be user defined, it may be system defined, automatically inherit from object class. So when I print the value of this, as it is a reference, it must implicitly call which method? The toString method of object class. Clear? So what the toString method print? That is the fundamental concept. I must elaborate because that is the question you face in the interview. But till the time, you just remember, as this is a reference, and when you print the value of the reference, it must implicitly call the toString method of object class. So what actually it print? I give you the assignment. You please check it. Now, otherwise, I must explain it when I move to the advanced area because that is a genuine question you face. So fine. Are you getting my words? Are you enjoying the classes or not? Please share your comments. That also boosting our energy to take the classes. I'm preparing you for interview. So when you are facing any Java interview, you never feel uncomfortable. And second thing, please, if you have the requirement of logical programs, if you want that I take the algorithms of numbering system, different numbering system, please share your comment. Then I also give another class for this logical application or algorithm. So please, whatever your requirement is, share your requirement or comments in the that is word in the that is word in YouTube. Then we are must giving you the class as per your requirement. But the thing is that if you are not programmatically strong, then it is really difficult. It is really difficult to get a job. So whenever I take the last class, that may sometimes I most of the guys give me the message, sir, this type of classes you can take, another classes you can take. But is it boost your energy or not? That is, it is give you some courage or not? Are you that is what are you modified? Your characteristics is modified or not? You feel comfortable or not? Otherwise, I'm taking the classes and you guys not feel comfortable. So it is just wasting of time. So anyway, share your comments, please. Then that give me that is what some that is what that give me some satisfaction to move to the next part. So thank you. Now I move to the next part. Next part is what we enter into another area. Another area is what that area is. Can you please tell me that is another feature that is called as that is inheritance part. They ask you the questions from inheritance. What actually inheritance is? Can Java directly support inheritance? Yes. Inheritance is a technique of sharing the properties of base class within the child classes. The base class properties are directly inherited in the child class. The child class directly invoke the properties of the base class. But remember one thing, that is except private properties, all the members are extracted. Are you getting? So inheritance is the inheritance is a technique by which the base class properties is shared in the child class. Clear? Next one is They ask you the question. Can the private member of the class is said in the child class? No. Private member never be said in the child classes. Now, that is a class in Java supports how many type of inheritance? A class in Java supports two types of inheritance, single inheritance and multi-level inheritance. They ask you the question, can Java class supports multiple inheritance? No. Java class never supports multiple inheritance. They ask you the question, can Java supports multiple inheritance? Yes. Java supports multiple inheritance by the help of interface, not by class. Interface supports multiple inheritance. What is interface? I must elaborate, but till the time, you just remember Java supports multiple inheritance by the help of interface. But a Java class never supports the multiple inheritance. A Java class supports two type of inheritance, single inheritance and a multi-level inheritance. Can a Java class directly support inheritance? Yes. Java having a fundamental rule. If I declare a class in Java and the class not inherit from any other classes, then that class automatically inherited from object class. Listen, object is the base class for every class. So can an interface inherit from a class? No. Interface never inherit from a class. That is not possible. So remember, they ask you the question, can an interface inherit from a class? You tell no, interface never inherit from a class. So I declare an interface. If they ask you the question, who is the base class of interface? You tell them no, no one is the base class of interface because interface never inherit from a class. Another point I tell you, class automatically inherited. If a class not inherited from any other classes, then that class implicitly inherit from object class. I call. Next, move to the topic of inheritance. So they ask you the question, when I construct the child class object, how it is possible in Java that the child class object extract the member of the base class? You tell that. Sir, it is the rule of inheritance. Don't tell that Java. It is any object-oriented language. When we call the constructor of the child class, that must implicitly call the base class non-parameterized constructor. It is the rule. I call the child class constructor means any constructor of the child class I call that must implicitly call or automatically call the base class which constructor non-parameterized. So it is a fundamental rule. So when I construct the child class object, it directly invoke the base class member because child class constructor implicitly call the base class non-parameterized constructor. Next one, what is super keyword? Super keyword is what? You tell that super is also, it is just like this. But there is a difference between this and super is there. I must elaborate. So super keyword is also a non-static reference. It is also a non-static reference. But it is a non-static reference not point to the object, but it is a point to the member of base class available in the child class object. Another time, I recap. You just remember, it is only one reference that not points to the object, but it is a reference that points to the base class member available in the child class object. So remember, this is the fundamental concept I covered for super keyword. Super is also a non-static reference. Like this, it never be implemented within the static method. Another time, I elaborate. This and super, both are non-static reference. But as it is non-static reference, it never be implemented within the static method. Both never be implemented within the static method. They ask you the question, can I implement this and super keyword within the main method? You tell no. This and super keyword are never be implemented within the main. This is a reference point to the current object, whereas super is a reference that not points to the object, but it is a pointing to the member of base class available in the child class object. Listen, what are the uses of super keyword? The uses of super keyword, you must remember what are the uses of super keyword. The first use, when I have a base class, take an example, I have a base class. Here I have an instance variable named as data. I have a child class B extends called A. Now I have an instance variable within it, that is the data. Now I make a mistake here. The instance variable name of the base class is similar to the instance variable name of the child class. Here I am facing problem. Now, how a compiler can make a difference between the two? So if I write here void, take an example, I'll just write the increment. It is a non-static method in the child class. If I write the data plus class, remember, compiler giving priority toward the compiler must giving the priority to the same class member, child class member, as it is the member of or as it is the method. Increment is the method of the child class. Compiler giving the priority to the child class member. Now, as a programmer, how can I point to the base class data? In this case, I have to use a super data class. Now, that is the difference I just elaborated. So Java tell, when I write super.data, compiler giving the priority to the base class instance. When I write only data, priority given to the same class. That is the first use of that is what super keyword. You just remember when the instance variable name of the base class is similar to the instance variable name of the child class, then as a programmer we can differentiate the base class instance variable and the child class instance variable by which keyword? Super keyword. So that is the first use of super keyword. Listen, so I just elaborate one Tom. When I started my career, I remember at that moment I was a struggle for job because you know that everyone always struggle for job for their studying areas. So at that time, I remember they asked me the question: what is the? I have an instance variable named as the that is data. I have an instance variable in the child class named as data. Base class में भी मेरा instance variable data है, child class में भी instance variable data है. So how can I differentiate? मैं कैसे इन दोनों को differentiate करूँगा in front of the compiler? So that is the main thing. So at that moment, I was not strong enough. That is what Java. So I faced problem because this part is also not covered in a details way in a college. We are not blaming the college. हम लोग कॉलेज को तो blame नहीं कर सकते ना. जॉब हमारा that is what हम लोग को जॉब चाहिए, कॉलेज को नहीं चाहिए. So what actually we can do? We have to learn. हम लोग को learn करना है. So that is I did some mistake. Funny things I explained. So that is what at that moment they just criticized me. Just they behave me as a joker. So take it easy. I never want you face this type of situations. So ये जो situation होता है ना, ये लोग बहुत actually this situation is really bad for every person. So as a trainer, I never want you face this type of situation. This question directly I face. They ask me, there is a base class is there. हमारा एक base class है, वहां पर data एक instance variable है. Child class भी है, यहाँ पर भी data एक instance variable है. हम लोग कैसे एक child class के method के अंदर उनको differentiate करेंगे? So actually क्या होता है ना, जब हम इंटरव्यू को जाते हैं, actually we have lots of pressure because neither we are strong in programming areas. हम लोग के पास एक ही प्रॉब्लम होता है, देयर इज अ फोबिया स्टेट, प्रोग्राम फोबिया. तो हम लोग को और प्रेशर रहता है, प्लस जो भी जानते हैं वहां पर गलती करके आते हैं. So I never want you face that type of problem. So now we enter into the next part. Next part is what? What is the second use of super keyword? Listen. Take an example. I have a base class. Now base class having a parameterized constructor. Take an example. I write here int data. Now you are going to see when I write this dot data is equal to. I just explained it. Now I have a base class. Base class having a instance variable. Having an instance variable called as data. It has a parameterized constructor of int. Now हम लोग अभी क्या करना है, हम चाइल्ड क्लास आ जाते हैं. यहाँ पर क्या करते हैं, टेक एन एग्जांपल, डबल डॉट इज जस्ट राइट. I just pass. Check here what I can read. I have it. That is what I have a child class. In the child class, there are two instance variables are there. One is data, another one is sum. Now, what I can do here, be having a parameterized constructor. I have to pass here. There is the int data. Then fine. After that, what I write double dot is sum. Now, if I write this type of code in Java, it's an error. Because what the rules are, shortly I covered, the rules are, when I call the child class constructor, it must implicitly call the base class which constructor, non-parameterized. But यहाँ पर तो base class में non-parameterized constructor नहीं है. यहाँ पर base class में कौन सा constructor है? That is a parameterized. That's the problem. So it directly generates error if I have not used super keyword. So what is the job of the second job of the super keyword? If I pass super 10, what did it mean? It explicitly call the base class which constructor, the base class parameterized constructor of what type? That is int. It's not an error, syntactically right. But if I'm not use super keyword, हम लोग अगर super keyword use नहीं करेंगे, so it must generate error. So what is the second use of super keyword? You tell that. Sir, super keyword is used to explicitly call the base class parameterized constructor within the child class constructor. अगर हम super keyword use नहीं करेंगे, तो ये क्या करेगा? It must implicitly call the base class non-parameterized constructor. But base class में non-parameterized constructor नहीं है. So that's the problem. So it's an error. So Java can avoid the error by the help of which keyword? Super. Now in this case, I can then write this dot data is equal to, that is the data. Sorry, that is the data. Then after that, what I can do here, that is this dot cell is equal to, I just write here, that is the. So this is the way I justify that my syntax is right. So as a programmer, I can explicitly call. Explicitly means हम लोग कॉल करते हैं, programmer कॉल करता है. I explicitly call the base class which constructor, parameterized constructor. But same restriction. At the time of calling of constructor, super must be the first statement. जब this keyword use करते थे constructor calling में, it is the first statement. Same rule is applied for super keyword. When we call the base class parameterized constructor, super must be the first statement. Clear? So आप लोग क्या बोलोगे? That is the first use of this keyword. Sorry, super keyword is what? When the instance variable of the base class name is similar to the instance variable name of the child class, then we have to use super keyword to differentiate between instance variable and the, that is what, a base class instance variable and child class instance variable. Second, when as a programmer I want to explicitly call the base class parameterized constructor or non-parameterized constructor into the child class constructor, then we are using which keyword? Super. At the time of calling of constructor, super must be the first statement. Another use also there. What is the third use? The third use is word, I just elaborate. I have a method public void, that is the increment dot is. Increment is the method available in base class. But the same increment method I have to override in the child class. Now my question is, in the child class, there is an increment method is there that override. That is the base class having a method called as increment. The base class method is override in the child class. What is overriding? Overriding means the method name same, return type same, parameter same. Overriding never possible in the same class. Overriding is only possible in case of inheritance. My child override my property. So without the relationship, overriding is not possible. Take an example. I have a method. Yeah, you see, that is void call. Call is a method. It wants to call the increment method. You tell which increment method is called, because call is the method of which class? Call is the method of a child class. So when I call increment, compiler giving the credit to the child, same class member. Now my question is, how it is possible that I can call the base class increment method? You now understand how you can call it by super dot increment. You remember hard use of super keyword. It is used in case of method overriding. You know that in case of method overriding, the same method of the base class redefined in the child class. Try to understand. In a child class non-static method, if I want to call the base class method which is override in the child class, then I have to use a super keyword. So देखो मैं कैसे explain कर रहा हूँ आप इसको. That is good. That is the main part. Because what happens, in which way I explain, you try to understand. Because this is the main part. If you explain like this, then job is not a matter for you guys. You can easily grab it. So whatever you tell that I learn Python, I learn any object-oriented language, concept is same. Whatever the rules are applied in case of Java, the same rules are applied for C++ also. But keywords are different. Java case, this is word, this is the reference. C++ case, this also did the same job, but this is a pointer. Because C++ supports pointer, Java not supports pointer. Java case, it is a reference, Java supports reference. So this is the concept you have to explain, sir. That is what actually happens in case of this, what actually happens in case of super. Now they ask you the next question. I just move to the next part. So are you enjoying, guys, or not? If you are enjoying, then fine, I can move. Otherwise, my team instruct me, so continue up to this extent. So can we proceed? If you just tell this type of questions you face in the interview, so you please give the comments. Then we can proceed for 1 hour sessions. I can take. That's not a matter. But your interest is very important. If you are feeling bad and if you are uncomfortable, then we can. That is stop it. So that is the actually what happens. हम लोग जब पढ़ते थे ना, तो सर जो जो भी चीज बोलते थे, we are not that is we हम लोग patience lose करते हैं ना, हम लोग क्या करते थे, तो that is what we never understand after that. So it is wasting of time only. So आज लेकिन मैं सोच रहा हूँ, मैंने जिंदगी में कितना that is what कितना खराब काम किया है. That is what I never listen the words of my teacher. But वहाँ जब तक का मैं स्टूडेंट था, that is what I am following this discipline because other friends हम लोग को क्या करते थे, insist करते नहीं बात करो बंद करो, हम लोग भी बात करते थे नहीं. अब you are mature, you are facing interview. I am not teaching you, I am just giving you interview preparation. So fine, there is no comments from your side, so we want to stop the sessions here, or I can continue another 5 minutes. Hello. If you please give me the comments, then fine, I can proceed. Otherwise, proceed. Okay, fine. So anyway, that is I covered super keyword, but there is a question they ask you: what is the difference between this and super keyword? Now try to understand this and super. What is the difference? This होता क्या है, super होता क्या है? Both are non-static reference. First, you tell what is the similarities between the two. Similarities are what? Both are non-static reference. Both cannot be implemented within the static method or main method. But difference is that this points to the current object, but the super never points to object. Super points to member of base class available in the child class object. Second, when we print the value of this keyword, as it points to current object, it implicitly called to string method of object class. Another time, I tell you, when I print the value of this keyword, as it points to the current object, it must implicitly call the toString method of object class. But in case of super, super never, listen, super is a reference that not points to the object, it points to the member of base class available in the child class object. So that is super generate what? Super generate error. It never call. If I print the value of super, it generate error because it not points to object. It points to the member. When it points to the member, then it directly generates what? It directly generates the. So remember, a member always called by dot operator. So toString method never be called. It generates. Now listen, this is used in the same class or in the child class also. But super is only used in case of child class. Super never be implemented in a base class. It is always implemented in the child class. These are the difference between this and super keyword. Next one is what is the instance of? Instance of is what? I already covered. Don't use the instance of every characters must be small letter. Here you see. This is the question. Instance of is a keyword. Instance of is an operator. It's a binary operator. Instance of is also used in case of inheritance. Without inheritance, instance of never be applied. When the object is the instance of the same class or its base class, it returns true. But when the object is the instance of the child class, it returns false. Without inheritance, don't use instance of. What is the advantage of using instance of? Instance of basically used to avoid one exception. What are the exceptions? The class cast exception. This exception is avoided by the help of word instance of. If I write here x ab is equal to mu x, you know that who is the base class of x class object? If I write here a b instance of that is x, it returns true. If I write a b instance of object, it returns true. Listen. So in these two cases, it returns true. But when I write AB instance of child class, if X having a child class, that is Y, AB instance of Y, then it return word false. So fine, today I covered up to this extent. In my next session, I think that is what tomorrow we can change the time. We can start the session at morning session. Okay, so I can give it at 9 to 10. That is the appropriate time for you guys. So in the morning 9 to 10, I take the session. So fine, thank you. That is another time. Please, I request you, please specify from which region you are and subscribe the channel and share the message to your friends. They can join. Thank you. Bye.